And I had an idea that I wanted today, and I wanted to maybe try some wire art. I don't know if it's going to work out, but you know something? We'll see. It might. You never can tell. Um, and I wanted to just hop on and try this with you all and see if anybody was around that needed to have company, or just, a chat with anybody, or just needed to watch me attempt to make something. So I'm trying to do this camera angle so you can see what I'm doing. The first thing I'm going to do is take my round pliers, and I'm going to make a little spiral at the end of this. And it doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be a spiral that's going to start the end of what I'm making. So it just needs to be a spiral that's just so the end is finished. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to very carefully use my pliers to come down and make what I would deem, I don't know, maybe the shape of a horse's head. Now, is this probably going to work out awesome? I doubt it. This will be the first time that I have attempted anything like this. And because I don't like to hammer, my wire, it probably will not be the strongest thing that I've ever made. But I'm going to attempt to make a horse's head. And this may be something that will take me several days to do. And I may have to end up actually going and getting some more of my husband's tools. But I wanted to show you a couple of things that I'm working on to try to kind of, I don't know, create a little bit wider selection in what I do with my wire jewelry. So now I need to bend him up and in there. That was too far. And bend him around. Okay, so this is a very rough start to this, but as you can see, we've got a horse head shape, we've got our start, we've got the jawline, which I will kind of probably have to lay and possibly hammer out and work on a little bit more. We bring this around to the top because this is how we're actually going to hook these together in a moment. And we're going to leave this straight now because now we're going to go for a smaller gauge wire that we're actually going to use to accentuate this. So this was 16 gauge wire that I made my beginning of my horse head out of. I'm now going to go to 18 gauge, which is a little bit easier to manipulate. And I'm going to cut some of it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my square pliers. And I've never done this before. This is a first time for me. But I've got to make the little guy at least one ear, right? Because if this is a profile, the horse needs at least one ear. So I want to start, and I want to see if I can make a triangle. And it doesn't have to be perfect, y'all. We're not going to perfection here. It doesn't have to be like, super awesome. It just has to be something that you're willing to work on and keep trying on. Like I said, this is my first go around with this specific attempt to make this thing. So here I have just made a little triangle on the end of this, and you can tip it forward if you'd rather have your horse's ear forward. That's fine. You can tip it forward. But now what we're going to do is we're going to actually attach it to this piece of metal. And that's why we need 2 different sizes. So what we're going to do is the first thing is we're going to line this up almost directly above the spiral on the horse's head. And you can tweak the shapes later. We're just trying to get them put together right now. I'm going to put him right there and I'm going to pinch him with my fingers. And I'm going to take my loose wire and I'm going to try to bring it down and put it through part of my spiral up into my spiral, to be quite honest. Let's just put it into our spiral where we need it. And I'm going to attach this ear to this horse head by wrapping. Now, a lot of people want to wrap and they want to make it look absolutely perfect. I'm not a perfectionist. I don't think it has to look absolutely perfect. I think if it has a few wobbles, it's okay. It has some character. But now we have 2 pieces of wire. And we have our horse head and we have an ear. Now we can tweak it, the shape of his face and the way his ears are going later. We just need to get him together. Just get him all hooked together so that we can start to work with him in a little bit better fashion. Now what we're going to do is we're going to use this second wire to add some detail. So I actually have some beads here, and watch me spill them when I open them, because that's about how coordinated I am today. So I'm going to use my silver beads. And every so often, probably every 5 to 7, I'm going to wrap a bead around this horse's neck. And it's just going to add kind of like, it's going to look like a little hunter jumper where they wrap their hair, they braid their hair and put it in wraps. It's just going to look like a little hunter jumper do. Oh no, he's not. It's going to take a while to get him perfectly shaped. I'll have to work on him for probably an hour or so once I get him put together. But this is my first time trying this, so it's kind of a learn as you go. But I thought about it all last night, so I kind of created my plan of attack last night, which is kind of what I do when I don't sleep. I create plans of attack. And I'm not using the biggest wire. Like if you wanted this to be more stable, you could use a harder wire. As you all know, I have a neuromuscular disorder and I cannot always aggressively bend the harder wires. So I have to use the softer wires. And then if I want to harden them up, I can hammer them. Or if I want to flatten them up, I can hammer them. But I don't always like the hammered look, so I don't always go for that. So all I'm doing is putting beads every 5 to 7 wraps, and just kind of making it look like when I bend and arch his neck, it looks like his owner has given him a hunter jumper braid, with the little ding ding dings down the back. And that's basically all I want it to look like. I'm just adding a little bit of style, a little bit of substance to something that would otherwise be quite possibly very plain and not as intriguing to look at. So I'm just adding something that adds a little bit of style and complexity. So, he's not perfect yet. It's going to take a while, but he's going to be looking pretty cool here in a little bit. I'm going to do one more wrap. I'm going to add at least one more bead. My hope is to shape into a heart so that somebody can use him as a dangle from their rearview mirror or from a kitchen window or from an office window. Just, somehow to share your love of horses in a very simple way. In an artistic way. So I'm going to finish up this wrap, and it doesn't have to be perfect. No, I mean, honestly, I think the less perfect things look, normally the prettier they are. I'm just one of those people that I really like like flaws, because flaws make things real. And if they're real, I don't feel so bad. So I like flaws. So there is his neck. What we're going to do though is we're going to arch him on around. So we want to keep the arch in his neck, but we want to bring him down to here. And I wish I had some nylon pliers, but all I have are my fingers, so I'm just going to have to deal with what I have. So right under his chin down here, we want to put another sharp, like almost 90-degree angle. So I've got it marked with my fingers here. I'm going to put my pliers that have the sharp edge, and I'm going to bend him. And what we're doing is we're going to bend him up, and we're going to turn him into a horse with a spiral heart on the other side. So yeah, I wish my stupid wire was a little bit more straight and I had some nylon pliers. But again, embrace the flaws, people. Flaws are everywhere. The quicker you learn how to embrace them, the better life will be. So I'm going to start putting another very tiny Q-tip curl here. And I need my glasses on, and as you can see, I don't have them on. And I ought to be horsewhipped because I need my glasses on. So I'm trying to bend this very tiny. I don't want it to be absolutely perfect, but I do want it to curl. Flatten that out. I do want it to curl so that I can create somewhat of a decent spiral. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's going to be a large spiral because it's going to take up a lot of room. I just try to get that first little curl in there and flat, so that when I start using my flat pliers to pull, I end up with a little bit more of a decent spiral. And so what I'm doing now is I'm just using my flat pliers to pinch and pull around in a circular motion. And y'all, you've already made the bend, so if you need to pull your horse's head back to work, you can. I'm making the bend, I'm making the spiral. And this is just, you just got to keep going and go slow at times and try to make it what pleases you. I mean, yeah, you want somebody to possibly purchase this or to give it as a gift and have somebody really enjoy it, but you also want it to be something that you enjoyed making. So it doesn't always have to be perfection for someone else, you know? And so what I'm trying to do now is straighten that back out. I've got a spiral. I want to bring that down, and I want to kind of meet his nose right here. I'm going to pick his nose up a little bit. I want to meet his nose right here, because now what I'm going to do is come in with another piece of wire and do one more spiral. And I'm also going to go back to the 18 gauge for this as well. And I hope I'm going to cut enough off to do this. And I'm going to go right into the last of my spiral, that last little hook right there. And I'm going to bend it over, and I'm going to go through my horse's nose, because I need to hook these together. I need to hook these together, and it's going to be on the back side, so it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to worry about perfection. Perfection is not attainable, people. Stop trying to attain perfection. I get so irritated when I see craft people that really try to stress. Hello, Chad. I don't think I've ever been called m'lady. I appreciate that. So I'm going to twist this in the back, and just to create like a little knot, because I'm going to trim that off. It's not going to be seen. I'm going to take it away. It doesn't matter. Don't sweat the small stuff. But what I'm going to do is, now that I've got the horse's nose hooked to the other side of the heart, is that I'm going to do the same wrap. When you get your wire pulled over, I'm going to do the same wrap around the top of this heart. And I'm going to do 5 to 7 at a time, and then I'm going to add a bead. But I'm only going to do a couple of beads because I don't want to overwhelm the style of this. I don't want it to be too gaudy and too out there, you know. So I'm going to wrap this a few more times. And later today, I'm going to be doing a video about Upchurch. So if anybody has missed my Upchurch updates, we're going to have one later today. We're going to have an Upchurch update. It's going to be an interesting Upchurch update. It's going to be a psych related. You know, I've got 6 years of psychology. I've got a master's in psychology. And I'm sitting here wire wrapping and doing fur art. But I'm going to do a psych related video on Upchurch later today, and I think it's something that you all will enjoy if you're a Creek Squad, and I think it's something that probably Upchurch is going to get a kick out of too. He has been very busy and off my radar lately, and now since he's back on the internet, I'd actually really like to get that interview with him. I understand he's busy, but maybe if I get his attention again, we can get him to pop into a live or complete that interview, we might accidentally get that interview that we always wanted. Okay, so now we've got the horse's head with the braids, with the beads. We've got the spiral in the middle of the heart. It needs to be shaped. Yes, we've got a couple of beads over here to fill in this, to add a little bit of depth and a little bit of, you know, contrast. Now we're just going to swirl this to make the other heart, the other side of the heart. It's going to be a big swirl. It doesn't have to be perfect. Perfection is not attainable. I wish more women knew that. My God, would the world be a better place if women knew perfection was not attainable and we didn't raise our little girls to think that it was. You know, my daughter is beautiful and gorgeous. I never called her a princess, and I never would, because it's not how the world's going to treat her, so why in the heck should I? I needed to prep her for the real world. I'm a very realistic mother. Of course, if you don't know who I am and you're watching, I used to be a parole officer. So I have a very commonsensical point of view many times. Now I'm going to make this spiral bigger, looser, a little sloppier, because it is going to need to cover more space. So it doesn't have to be as perfect. And I don't know if I'm truly happy with the way that that spiral turned out or not. I may tweak it a little bit more later. But there we have the heart, the spiral, the horse head, which I need to fix his jaw, shape his jaw, and shape his ear a little bit more. And then you can add stuff, like you can add a dangle and add a crystal, add beads. You can add a gemstone. You can add the birthstone. You can do a lot of things to make these specific for the person you're making them for. A lot of people like to add a little bit of wire and do an initial or even wire out a name. That's great. I'm going to play with this a little bit more and probably hammer out some of the places that I want to be a little bit more tough and less likely to bend. And then we'll see what it ends up being. I may post a picture on the community page, but it's probably going to go with me to the festival next week to be sold, because the place that my husband is actually going next week is a trail riding facility. And, you know, since my neuromuscular disorder and gaining all this weight, my trail riding days are over, because it's just really unfair to the horse to make them pack me these days. But my husband was personally invited, and my son's going to be doing chainsaw carving demonstrations. So I really want to possibly just send a little bit of my jewelry down and just be represented to say, hey, you know something? Yeah, I'm disabled now, but I can still make pretty stuff, dadgummit. So I'm going to work on shaping him up and work on making sure that the beads are laying the way I want the beads to lay. I'm going to shape his jaw a little bit more so he has more of a quarter horse jaw and less of a hard jaw right there. And I'm going to make sure that his ear is laying the way that I want it to lay. But that is how simple it is to make a little heart horse head pendant. And if you really want to challenge yourself, you can take apart a wire coat hanger and make one out of a wire coat hanger. But let me tell you, it takes some muscle and it takes some time. And you might say a few wordy dirts, but they're really pretty and they make really beautiful. If you can put the plastic in the middle, the color plastic, and glue it to fix it and like do the shrink wrap to where it looks like stained glass in the middle. They make beautiful designs to hang in kitchen windows or windows that catch the light. But this is just a tiny little pretty horse head thing. And I'm going to shape him up a little bit. I think he looks kind of sad in a couple certain places. But it's, wire wrapping is not super difficult. You watch somebody that does, a full bracelet and they know how to make all of the latches and all of the special things, and it's like, that's great. That's great. But that doesn't mean you have to know how to do all of that. And you can be just, I don't know what in the world that was. I'm glad you're barking at it. You can be just as successful with these. Somebody's at my door. Gotta go.